Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. So, the Supreme Court has just ruled 7-2 that Trump is no longer allowed to deport Venezuelan gang members according to the Alien Enemies Act. Now, that was the act that Trump was using to kind of circumnavigate the rulings by several judges saying that he can't deport people. There's stays on should this be allowed or not. And while waiting for those cases to be reviewed, Trump decided to use this act, which legally he was allowed to use, but now the Supreme Court has said that he can't even use that. So basically all deportations are essentially on hold at the moment. The problem with this is we have to deport these people. There's 40 to 50 million people in the country that don't belong here. And specifically, Trump was targeting the violent gang members. And the Supreme Court has just said, no, you can't do that. You can't get rid of violent gang members. They have to stay in the country. They are not American citizens. They do not have a right to an American trial. They shouldn't. They should be removed from the country for not being an American citizen who is here in any legal capacity. And the worst part about this is going to escalate this ongoing tension between the presidency and the Supreme Court. Because when you look at the numbers for polling, about 60% of people support mass deportations. 50, 60%, it's about half the country. But the number that matters in this instance is it's over 80% of people, around 83% of people support the deportation of gang members. So that's what Trump is really targeting here. But now the Supreme Court says, no, you can't do that. So what do you do when the vast majority of the country supports a policy that is about safety, the most basic right, like the most basic responsibility of the government is to keep you safe from invasion, keep you safe from war, keep you safe from starving to death. Basically, the government is supposed to protect you. That's their number one job. It's not protecting you. The Supreme Court somehow allowed there to be 40 or 50 million people in this country that don't belong. They allowed that to happen and take place. But now when Trump's trying to remove those people who have no right to be here, suddenly that's a problem. So this is just diminishing people's trust in the court. Like 80% of the people should look at this and say, the court is not doing what they should be doing. They're not supporting the American people. And there was two dissenters, Alito and Thomas, and they're going to come out and release statements, I'm sure. But I'm thinking it's probably along the lines of, there's no reason that Trump should not be able to deport gang members, at the very least, something the vast majority of Americans agree on, because now there's no recourse. And you're pushing Trump to do something which he has the power to do, but not the authority to do. And that is just say, I'm going to ignore you, Supreme Court. You've made your ruling, now enforce it. Come and get me. I'm going to keep deporting them. I'm going to keep putting them on planes. I'm going to send them back. I'll use the military if I have to. What are you going to do? How are you going to stop me? And when that bridge is crossed, when that line is crossed, judicial trust is just completely broken, because the only reason our judiciary works is because we all agree that it should be allowed to work in that way, that we have trust in the law. We allow the authority of the law to bind us, which is really not the basis of human nature. The basis of human nature is might makes right. Power ultimately is the only force that really truly matters. Trump has the power to actually do whatever he wants. But he has, not just him, but the presidency has, of its own benevolence, given that power to the court and then listens to them because they feel that they're impartial, they do their job right. That was for the longest time, but now the court's obviously stacked. Both sides talk about how we need to get a president in when a Supreme Court member dies so we can stack the court in one favor or another. You can't have a country running where the law is not impartial, where it's totally biased and openly biased, and everybody agrees it's biased and we have to make it biased for our side. And both sides say that. You can't have a system like that. So when there's already no trust in the judiciary anyways, because people are seeing it biased one way or another, and then they say, you are not allowed to protect the safety of American citizens. They have to be getting murdered by foreign illegal aliens in their country. You have to let them get murdered by illegal immigrants. That's the illegal immigrants' rights to harm American citizens and have no punishment come. Really, like you have to try them fairly as Americans, and you have to send them to American prison, which paid for on the American taxpayer dollar. No, that's ridiculous. It's absurd. And so if Trump crosses the Rubicon here, that expression, and says, I don't care. I don't care what you have to say. It's going to totally discredit the Supreme Court. It's going to cross that line. And then suddenly this will leave other presidents to be able to just ignore the Supreme Court. Because all of the power in the Supreme Court, like I said, it's just an illusion. It's only there because we allow it to be there. They have no actual power to enforce their rulings. And they're pushing Trump to do this because the majority of Americans want this. He wants this. He should be able to do this. He should not be able to keep getting stopped by, district court judges. But that's what's happening. And so everybody's using these wonky, loopholes and rules to stop the powers that be. And the only people who suffer in that gridlock are the American people, who are not having a government respond swiftly to the problems, which is the rapes and murders happening by illegal immigrants, especially these gang members, the gun violence, the drug crime, all that stuff that's happening is happening to American citizens. So they're the ones who are getting screwed. And the American people will look at the Supreme Court and say, you council of 9 unelected officials who you don't have to worry about your safety because you get private safety, private security and whatnot. So for some reason, since you don't have to care about your safety, you seem like you don't care about ours. And that is not going to fly. And so Trump has the popularity to do this. He really does. He could just say, I'm not going to listen to what the Supreme Court says. And that sets a bad precedent. I'm not saying that's something that should happen, but in this case, it's like, what else are you supposed to do? He's trying to protect the safety of Americans. They say no. He says safety of Americans come first before the alleged rights of illegal immigrants who shouldn't have rights in this country because you're not here legally. So somehow their due process trumps the safety of Americans. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. Trump makes the decision to overrule the court's ruling by using the authority he actually has, which is power. There's nothing that they can do. And that might lead to a total breakdown of our system. But the worst part about this is it's not Trump doing something that nobody supports. It's the vast majority of people would be behind him in that circumstance. And that should be scary for the court. The court has a lot of times said, we don't know how to rule on this because they don't want to create that rift. They don't want the responsibility of basically destroying American law because they decree something that the vast majority of people don't like, and that the president says there's no other recourse except for to ignore them. And that's what you're pushing Trump to do. You're saying there's nothing left for me to do legally. I keep trying to do it legally. I keep trying to be reasonable and responsible. But every single day we wait, people are getting murdered. So enough is enough. And I'm not going to listen to you because you're wrong. You're just wrong. The Supreme Court is just wrong on this. That's kind of like what his thought process is. And so he might just say, you're wrong. And since the court has now become corrupt in his eyes and the eyes of the American people, there's no recourse. There's no higher authority. The higher authority is ultimately power. And that's the authority Trump wields. And that's the authority the majority of American people want to see him wield, specifically against the gang members. In terms of the other mass deportations, that's about half, so that would be a lot harder to pull off. But I don't know. He might just do it. And I don't think there's anybody who would really step in to stop him. The court has really, really drawn a line in the sand here. And it's the final line in the sand. And it's just a threat. They're just saying you can't do this. And the second Trump crosses that, it is just a line in the sand. There's nothing to stop him. And that sets a bad precedent because then Trump can just blatantly start ignoring the court more and more and more, especially if he has the support of the American people. If you have 60 to 70% of the support of the people to do any given thing, then it probably will get done and no one's going to step in to stop you. So that's the future of the total breakdown in the American system and the centralization of power into one authority. But ultimately, would you rather live in a country that has the traditional constitutional rule of government that we've had? However, your chance of getting murdered in the streets is significantly higher. Or would you rather live in a country where your chance of getting murdered in the streets is near zero, except for maybe, you don't have, you lose a little bit of that checks and balances. People care about the ending, right? That's what's more important than the process. To the people is, how is this affecting my life? Nobody cares if the process is, remains the same as it was, if the effect on your life is demonstrably worse, which ends in, violence being committed against you, and then the government not coming to save you, and in fact stepping in and stopping anybody who wants to help you from helping you. People would rather have the outcome than the process, because the average citizen doesn't care. They don't care about the sanctity of the Constitution. They don't care about this elevation of this document to basically the deifying of this document, the deifying of like the government and how sacred and hollow our democracy is. When push comes to shove, if people are robbing you and harming you and your family, you're going to side with whatever power stops that. We've seen that throughout history. That's what always happens. If somebody comes along, a strong man, who says, I'm willing to do dirty, what is criminal in our system things. I'm willing to seize power. I'm willing to ignore anybody who gets in my way. I'm willing to get my hands dirty, but your life will be better. And the people say, yeah, I'd rather have my life be better. So who cares about how good a system is on paper if in practicality my life is being ruined in the process? So that's my thoughts on this. I think the Supreme Court's really stepped in at this time, and I don't know what they're going to do about it, because it all comes down to Trump. This is his moment. He can change the history of American politics, or he can keep trying to play the game. If he steps outside the box, steps outside the game, and just says, I'm going to do my own thing, I don't think there's anything that can stop him. Even by popularity-wise, I think he'd have the support of the people to do it, and he certainly has the power to do it. So not a situation anybody wants to be in, not a situation we should be in. But the court's made its decision. They've drawn their line in the sand. Now let them enforce it. So that's my thoughts on this. If you made it all the way through the video, I appreciate it. If you like the content, like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out. And thank you for watching.